Namaste, Vivek ji. We at Advaita Academy welcome you all to the 1-month-long Oneness Festival, a global celebration of Adi Shankaracharya ji. In this session, we have a live talk by Acharya Vivek ji on Mohamudgara shloka 27, followed by a Q&A. After that, we have a video on the true meaning of moksha or mukti by Babaji Bob Kindler. Please stay back for both. For the new attendees, we have 4 different sessions every day, 2 in the morning at 6 a.m. IST and 2 in the evening at 6:30 p.m. IST. We also have extra music sessions on weekends. Please do join in and encourage the artists. Despite traveling to 50 odd countries on work and managing a multi-million-dollar business, Acharya Vivek ji still sought more. For over 2 years, therefore, Vivek ji lived and studied as a monk under the guidance of the spiritual master Swami Tejomayananda ji in the Chinmaya Mission Monastery in India. Discovering the only purpose of life is to be independently joyous, Acharya Vivek ji continues to explore this purpose by sharing the same with others. He is the resident teacher of Chinmaya Mission Niagara and the Deputy Director of Chinmaya Yuva Kendra West, a wing of the organization dedicated to empowering the youth and young adults. All the questions and the comments you have, please type it in the chat box below and I'll take a few or Acharya ji can take it himself at the end of the talk. And I request Acharya Vivek ji now to please start his talk. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha.
Gratitude. Hari Om, and greetings from Niagara Falls, Canada. If you analyze the calendar of Sanatana Dharma, every month there is a Utsava. In English, this means festival. And Utsava is to invoke Utsaha. In English, this means inspiration. Why? We are results oriented. We're always looking forward to what next, what next, what next. And so our rishis, they planned our utsavas like this. In times of challenges, more utsavas are needed. I'm appreciative of the Advaita Academy for organizing this utsava, this festival, when we need this. When the whole world is closing, this is an effort to be open. There are lots of types of festivals, food festivals, music festivals, and more. The type of festival that the world needs when the world is struggling with stress and anxiety and sadness is a festival focused on oneness. Think about this logically. Wherever there's two-ness or separation, there is a possibility of vices like stress, anxiety, sadness. If there's oneness, if there's no separation, there are no vices. When you look in the mirror, do you ever feel lusty towards yourself? Of course you don't. Are you ever greedy about your own bank account? Of course you're not. Because there's a oneness you have with you. These are the festivals that the world needs. And who better to evoke oneness than Acharya Shankara? I'm sure you have learned lots from dynamic speakers, from deep speakers on Acharya Shankara. I'll share one insight. He was, he is, he will be a leader. The word Acharya means one who leads by example, first leading themselves, and by doing so, leading others. This is what a real leader does. Technically, a leader is one who knows the sadhya, the purpose. A leader is one who knows the sadhaka, the people, and then connects these dots with sadhana, or a path. Purpose, people, path. He lived this. He breathed this. This evening, on the East Coast, this morning in Bharat, we are going to cover Mohamudgara, just one shloka of this grand Shastra text. Moha means delusion. And we throw this word around all the time. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, Moha is when one confuses the relative to be the absolute. The ahankara to be the ego to be the spirit. In a most tactile way, when one confuses pleasure to be peace. I'm suffering from moha. I'm sure many of us are. And so what do we need? Mudgara. Mudgara means a hammer. To hammer at this delusion, to hammer at the ego, to hammer at pleasure. And how Acharya Shankara has offered this hammer. Mohamudgara is also known as Bhaja Govindam. And the main message is in the first verse. I want you to visualize the ego is inside this vessel. And there's a hammer and there's a nail. And this nail has to get into this ego. But you have to hammer through this vessel. The first verse is like a major strike. Acharya Shankara initiates this. This is followed by 12 minor strikes. You do that with a nail, correct? You first get it half in, and then you keep on striking, so it goes in further and further. This is the first 13 verses. The next 14 verses are by Acharya Shankara's shishyas or disciples. These are like taps. Now that nail is almost through the vessel and reaching that ego. You tap this. When that nail goes through that vessel and hits the ego, the last 4 verses are Acharya Shankara and his disciples smiling. The last 4 is Acharya Shankara's summary of Bhaja Govindam. I hope you followed the flow of the dissection of Mohamudgara. And we're now going to focus on shloka 27, which is the contribution of Sri Sumati, one of Acharya Shankara's great shishyas. I will chant the whole shloka. I hope you have the text also and you can chant with me. And then we'll go quarter by quarter to think of this at a high level and at a practical level. Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram Dhyeyam Shripati Rupamajasram Neyam Sajjana Sange Chittam Deyam Dina Janaya Chavittam Bhaja Govindam Bhaja Govindam Govindam Bhaja Mudamate. What a lovely rhythm. Geyam. Geyam means to sing. To sing what? Gita. This can be interpreted technically as songs. The implication here is Bhagavad Gita. And Nama Sahasram, thousands of names. And again, technically, that's all of our names. But the implication is Vishnu Sahasranama. Both Bhagavad Gita and Vishnu Sahasranama are contained within the Mahabharata. This is the history of Bharat. And what's amazing about these two texts, Bhagavad Gita is about enlightenment, one who's not enlightened and wants to be. That is Prince Arjuna. And Vishnu Sahasranama is the experience of enlightenment of Acharya Bhishma, as he's looking around and only sees Bhagwan. We'll make this more relative so we can hold on to this. Whatever you sing tends to leave an impression on you. Yes? Our older son, Vyasa, he sees me at our ashram in Niagara Falls called Chinmayadhara. He sees me sitting at the Vyasa Pita with a mic, and I teach Bhagavad Gita. When we go to the ashram, and he runs around, and he'll take a book, and I'll ask him, Vyasa, what are you doing? And he says, I'm teaching Bhagavad Gita. See the impression this has left on him. In the mornings when I'm with our younger son, Shuka, he just turned 1, then I'll play Vishnu Sahasranama to leave or create that impression on him. And if Vyasa's around too, before Vishnu Sahasranama begins, there's all of the invocation, and they keep mentioning Vyasa, and he'll smile and say, they're saying my name. Sing. Sing about enlightenment and feel how this leaves an impression on you, making this even more tactile. When I study, I like to follow a framework of absolute, relative, and tactile. Absolute, this is the message about peace. Relative, this is the message about quietening the mind. And tactile is, where do I start? The verb, the engagement. Here's how. Every night, before you go to sleep, chant 2 verses of Bhagavad Gita. Systematically. 2 verses, 2 verses, 2 verses. Do this and then close your eyes and see how that impression settles into you. If you do follow this practice or sadhana, within a year, you would have chanted all of Bhagavad Gita. What to do with Vishnu Sahasranama? whenever you're engaged in chores, in the afternoon you're washing the dishes or sweeping or folding laundry, play Vishnu Sahasranama. And instead of the mind overthinking about regrets of the past or anxieties of the future, the mind will be present on the folding, and that divinity will be flowing. Next quarter. Dhyeyam Shripati Rupam Ajasram. Ajasram means always. Dhyeyam. One should contemplate. On what? The Rupa form of the Pati, the spouse of Shri, that is Bhagavati Lakshmi. In other words, Bhagwan Narayana. Whatever we contemplate on, we start to become one with that. You've heard Swami Shivananda share, as you think, so you develop. So contemplating, we become. There are 4 strategies on how to evolve from who we are to being closer to Bhagwan, to being more divine. And that is Nama. Deeper than that is Rupa. Deeper than that is Guna. And the deepest is Dhamma. The name, the form, the virtues, and then the locus. See how the first quarter started with the name. Now, this quarter is focusing on the form and the virtue. The word Shri means virtuous. Contemplate on how lovable Bhagwan is. We all love those who are virtuous. When we observe someone who's disciplined or someone who's patient, we're drawn to them. I remember Swami Tejomayananda asking a large group of us, how do you know you're a successful Balavihar teacher, a Vedanta teacher? And we all came up with our ideas. And he shared, if you can instill the love for the Lord in the heart of a listener, a student, you are successful. And there's a system on how to do this, from name to form to locus, in the most tactile way. We all engage in puja. At least we say we engage in puja. The best puja is every morning. Simply remember a different virtue of your Creator. Your Creator has infinite virtues. You remember a different one every morning, and then carry on with your day. This is how this quarter comes to life. Dhyeyam Shripati Rupam Ajasram. Whatever you do in the morning, you will probably carry that with you in the afternoon, evening, night. Third quarter. Neyam Sajjana Sange Chittam. Chittam is the mind. What should we do with the mind? Neyam, lead it. Towards what? Sat Jana Sangha. Sat Jana Sange. In the association of people who are trying to practice values, be noble. Why the mind? We all live in our own minds. Yes? This verse, if 100 people had to speak on this particular verse, you would have 100 different interpretations, because we live in our mind. I interpret it this way. And then 100 other listeners will compound that diversity of understanding. Maybe an easier way to appreciate how we live in our mind. One person's trash is another person's treasure. This is not about perception, rather about interpretation. Lead the mind to those who are trying to be virtuous. If you think of this in a more absolute way, Sat, that is existence, the truth, is manifesting in the jana, humans, animals, plants, stones. Bhagwan is disguised as those around you who are satsangis, those who are trying to evolve. And we know Bhagwan does disguise herself, himself. When Acharya Shankara was in Varanasi, he thought he saw a Chandala. He perceived that. And then finally interpreted, this is Bhagwan Shiva. Those dogs around that street cleaner are the Veda. Remember Manisha Panchakam, every time you're in satsang, that person is Bhagwan disguised. That person is Bhagwan disguised. Then you can do the same even in Dussanga. When you're around those who are not trying to be better, you still feel Bhagwan is disguised to help you be noble and truthful. Here's how to bring this to life, our tactile perspective. Every week, schedule 5% of your time to be in a study group. We have 168 hours a week. So 5% of that. Be in a few study groups of an hour, of 90 minutes, like this, this forum. And we will start to feel that the Creator is not far away, but is coming closer and closer. And eventually within. And the last quarter. Deyam dina janaya chavitam. Give, support, dina jana, those who are needy. With what? Vittam, your funds, your resources. Whenever you read this word dina, translated into English as needy, aren't we all needy? We all have our own needs. We're insecure in different ways. And we're secure in different ways too. Those who are privileged are only privileged if they share that privilege. And if they don't share it, they're actually dina. They're needy. And externally, we may not observe that. It is an insecurity within, which is why they don't give or support. In the last 40 days, I want to share some celebratory news with all of you. On April 1st, we had completed a program called Magical Mantras 2, where I shared how mantras can be lived in our lives. On April 11th, we gathered for Healing with Hanuman. This was about Hanuman Jayanti, how he's an icon of toughness and hope. And yesterday, May 9th, here in Canada, we celebrated gratitude to the Guru, about Acharya Shankara, Swami Chinmayananda, the whole Guru Shishya Parampara. With each of these events, we took up a cause to share our privilege. I'm not worried where I'm going to have dinner or where I'm going to sleep. Most of you aren't either, but there are thousands and millions who are worried. And so we were able to raise $40,000 in 40 days over these 3 events for the youth in Niagara Falls, for the hungry in Albany, New York, and for a Animal Protection League in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm very proud to share this. How what Acharya Shankara shared 1,500 years ago, seekers are following. To make this most tactile from what has happened to what we should do, give 10% of every check, every paycheck to charity. A charity is working with the people in a nation, registered by the government. This is how we live what Acharya Shankara has shared. This is the details of shloka 27. Now, I hope you're following the train of thought, because I haven't completed the chorus. Shloka 1 is Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. What I've shared based on what Acharya Shankara's and Acharya Shankara's disciples have shared. Every morning, remember a virtue of Shripati. Every afternoon, listen to Vishnu Sahasranama. Every evening, chant Bhagavad Gita, 2 verses. So you have a sadhana to the sadhya, the means to the ends, morning, afternoon, and evening. Then schedule 5% of your time every week. Every week, schedule 5% of your time to study groups. And every check, give 10% to charity. If you do this, you will be engaged in Bhaja Govinda. Bhaja has so many meanings, the best being live. Govinda has so many meanings, the best being peace. You are living for peace, you are living peacefully. I'll complete my thoughts, and then if anyone has any questions, you can ask. One of the most popular chapters of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, highlighting verse 16. Bhagavan Krishna tells Prince Arjuna, Dvau imau purushau loke. Which means this field you're living in, this world you're living in, has 2 perspectives, a lower one and a higher one. In fact, in the next shloka, he says there's an even higher one. But for us, there's a lower one and there's a higher one. When we do not internalize what a leader like Acharya Shankara has shared, we're living by instinct. Instinct is when you feel you're the body and one keeps living by this instinct. Eat, drink, and pretend to be merry. As for internalizing what Acharya Shankara has shared, it's evolving to intention. The privilege, the specialty of being a human, all of us, is that animals live by instinct. Humans can live by intention. Intention is what makes all of the difference between sadness and happiness. Karma yoga and karma, this intention will help treat the relative as relative and absolute as absolute. Mohamudgara. If anyone has any questions through Zoom, through Facebook, then do ask, and ask freely. On Zoom, you can type out your question and I can read them. And Facebook, that will be shared. So, a question from Ramji. What is the ultimate message to a commoner, by implementing which he will lead a more enlightened and peaceful life? Good. What an honest question. I have shared through Acharya Shankara's disciple 5 practices. Remember, listen, chant, schedule, and donate. Pick one of these. And that will help us not depend outside for happiness, but rather depend on oneself for happiness. If that's too abstract, here's another practice. My father, he shared this with my sisters. I have an older sister and a younger sister. We were all born in Niagara Falls, Canada. My father's from Kanpur. My mother's from Delhi. He wanted us to be morning people. He saw the utility of being an early riser, and he encouraged my sisters and I to do so. They never hung on to that, to that practice too much, but I did. And I feel this is such an easy and high impact way of bringing peace into our lives. Because when you wake up in the morning, there's a freshness, there's a quietude, there's sattva. And if you wake up early, that means you're sleeping early. At night, there's indulgence and laziness and tamas. So you're shifting less hours into tamas and more hours into sattva. Muthu Lakshmi ji, remember guna. Please give an example. I'm happy. Everyone's paying attention. Nama, that would be like chanting or japa. Rupa, that would be like offering puja. Guna means virtue, quality. If you think of, let's leave Bhagwan Narayana and focus on Bhagwan Rama for the sake of simplicity. All of Ramayana is about Bhagwan Rama. How many gunas he has? One of them being compassion. Devi Sita's favorite name for her husband is Karuna Nidhana. Karuna Nidhana. Nidhana means the treasure house of compassion. He was compassionate to all of the Rakshasas also. Remember that on Monday morning. On Tuesday, Ekabani. When he shot an arrow, he only shot once. How focused he was. He is. So you keep on going like that, and by remembering that, as you think, so you develop. One loves Bhagwan more. One moves towards Bhagwan more. Muditji, you mentioned that Acharya Shankara has said, give 10% of paycheck for charity. Where has he said this? Why don't Hindus do this? I can totally relate to your sentiment. I was at the home of the president of a large mandir in a large city in North America. I'll leave out details. We'll make this impersonal. And they were about to begin a $7 million expansion. And the president looked quite anxious about this. And I shared with him, like so many other religions, where they give 10% of their paycheck to their local institution of worship. if all of the Hindus in your city did this, then you would never need a fundraiser. And he looked up at me with such a sad expression and said, if everyone just gave 1% of their income, we would never need such a fundraiser. I cannot reference for you what Shastra talks about giving exactly 10% of your paycheck. I'm suggesting this based on my own study and experience. Seva is not emphasized in Sanatana Dharma as an activity. This is part of one's lifestyle towards their grandparents, towards animals. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the dharma or responsibility of a householder, a grahastha like me, is to treat animals like we would treat our children. And I mean that in a loving way, not the opposite. So the challenge that Hindus bring upon themselves is that they don't study their own shastras. Good question. Sanjeev ji, which two verses from Bhagavad Gita are you recommending? I'm recommending all of them. Start tomorrow. Start tonight. Correct? Bhagavad Gita at night. Here on the East Coast. Chapter 1, verse 1 and 2 tonight. Tomorrow, chapter 1, verse 3 and 4. And if you do this systematically in a disciplined way, you will have chanted Bhagavad Gita. 350 days, 2 shlokas. And you do this your whole life. What an impression this will create on the mind. Ranji, why do governments not take inputs from Vedanta for better governance? I relate to your sentiments fully. Earlier this year, actually I'll rewind even more. Some years ago, in San Jose, California, I spoke on Vishnugupta's or Chanakya's Niti Shastra. I took the essence of that, the more Vedantic teachings. And as I studied this and listeners experienced this, we were blown away at how comprehensive and holistic this political science, this art of leadership was and is. And so coming back to, if governments, if corporations, if families, if organizations study Artha Shastra, Dharma Shastra, Brahma Vidya, there would be much more clarity inside and outside. And respecting time, I'm sure I have time for one more question from anyone who's joining us through Zoom, anyone who's joining us through Facebook.
Vivek ji, if I may I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, since there's nobody else and I really wanted to ask, you mentioned by teaching by example, Vriddha Vyavahara. Can you please elaborate on that, like how your son Vyasa watches you, and it'll be a great help to all the parents out here. Thank you.
Of course. Swami Tejomayananda had shared, before a couple has kids, they have many theories on raising kids, but no kids. And then that couple has many kids and no theories on raising kids. So I'm sharing, as a young parent, Vyasa is about to turn 3 and Shuka just turned 1, that they watch everything. They watch everything we say and we do. My wife's name is Sheila. And this is helping us be careful and to try to infuse all that we do, our home life, our professional life, our ashram life, with sattva. So chanting and images. Vyasa sleeps with Hanumanji, a stuffed doll of Hanumanji. And he hugs him and wants to be with Hanumanji. And slowly now, he's reading about Hanumanji. This is important. Number one, to remember that everyone is always watching you. But a key refinement here, okay? And I did say this about Acharya Shankara. Typically, we're told lead by example. The problem with that is we become fake then. When we take photographs of whatever we take photographs of, now don't we do that to share it on Instagram or Facebook? It's for others, it's not for ourselves. We tend to do that with advice too. You should lead yourself, period. The word yoga, yujyate, to unite. Who you are today with a better you tomorrow and a better you tomorrow. And eventually, you reach the best you. If you do that, those who are watching you, and everyone is watching you, they will be amazed, they will be drawn, they will follow what you're doing. Not because you're trying to do that, but you're doing that because this is right. And a second thought to your question, Kavita ji. As a child grows older, a parent often can't instill in that child what a friend can do, what a community can do. And so, kids should be in Balavihar. They should have a community of other kids who are not just focused on IQ, but EQ, their emotional quotient. And Yuvakendra, a majority of my work is towards young adults and evolving adults, and it doesn't matter what their background is or what organization they're part of. I'm a Canadian citizen. I'm speaking in English. I love Sanatana Dharma and Bharat. There's no barriers to entry. So this sense of community, we should be active in encouraging them to be in this community. And that has to start with us being in that. And all of you are doing that.
Thank you so much. And are there any more questions in the chat box you'd like to address, or is...
I don't see any more questions, and Muthulakshmi suggested Bhagavad Gita chapter 3:21, Yad Yadacharati Sheshtaha, Tad Tadeveta Janaha, which is so true. Whatever a leader does, followers will do.
Absolutely. So thank you, Acharya Vivekji. It was a pleasure having you with us and for teaching us how to be independently joyous with all those great pointers. I'm sure all the young parents will take it to heart. Thank you once again, and we hope you can come back to Advaita Academy at a future date.
Of course, I appreciate the opportunity. Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi. I'll sign off and please continue with formalities.
Thank you so much. Shubharatri.